So it's great to be with all of you. Thank you also, Michael, for setting that up. It's truly a pleasure to be among you, and I appreciate the invitation to share a few things with you about skills and about how that as a currency can dramatically improve the link between education and work. And I'm going to talk about that specifically from the perspective of an institution of learning and education at WGU. For those of you who don't know, WGU is as a competency-based education institution, we've long been focused on increasing the alignment of learning outcomes with the readiness for work or with the requirements of work. And so for skills for us, it dramatically amplifies our ability to do that. It dramatically increases our ability to ensure that what is it that you're acquiring as you're traversing your learning journey that's going to be relevant to the opportunities and the roles that you're going to be pursuing. And before I kind of highlight the points I want to make, I just want to start with this simple thing, because too often individuals actually believe that skills somehow are technical skills or professional skills, and that they don't incorporate what we would generally call human skills or the more enduring skills of communication and problem solving and dealing with ambiguity and interpersonal engagement. All of those things are also skills. Skills is fundamentally just an umbrella way to think about all the knowledge, skill, and ability that an individual has to do the work. And so when we think about skills, there's 5 points I just want to share with you to kind of set up the conversation about this. The first one is fundamentally that they are increasingly the unit of competency. When I say the unit of a competency, the reality is that it forces us to create greater specificity in the program and the curriculum development. You have to be very particular about what is it that you will actually become proficient in completing this course. What is it that you will be able to demonstrate competency in? When you take a skills-based approach to learning design, that actually forces that to be very specific so that both the individual and the employer can have a greater understanding of that which you've actually acquired. The second thing it does in this regard is actually increases the quality of the assessment. It increases the ability to actually verify proficiency. It increases our ability to ensure that regardless of who you are, you've achieved that standard for proficiency. And so skills can do that for us as well. And ultimately for an institution, it actually increases your capacity for aligning learning outcomes with work. Skills is a better denomination, a better unit of measure than what we have today around a course and a credential. Skills allows us to work at a level that's more granular and therefore more applicable. The other thing that I like to say is that without skills, degrees and credentials themselves would kind of be like buying your daily coffee with a $100 bill. That's not the way that things operate today. Degrees themselves became a blunt force instrument. And we've seen how that's already manifested itself, in terms of the work that's happened out there. The individuals kind of default to the degree required. But in reality, skills, or without skills, those credentials, in fact, become just blunt instruments. It doesn't actually allow us to identify all the talent that exists out there that actually possess the capabilities that are needed for the specific role to do. And so it really allows an individual, too, who's traversing their learning journey to understand what opportunities are becoming available to me because of the courses I'm completing, because of the program that I'm completing. What skills am I now deemed efficient or proficient to actually have? And so again, just keep in mind is paying for a daily coffee with a $100 bill, especially in the post-pandemic world where thank goodness we went to digital wallets. You couldn't even get someone to take that bill, let alone you're trying to buy something that's only $5 with a $100 bill. Skills actually allows you to transact at a level today that's more aligned with the future of work. The third thing is that it allows us to broaden the frame of how skills are and can be acquired. By that, what I mean is there's a Thomas Friedman quote that I think was actually made in 2012 or 2013 where he highlighted that very much the future is going to be about what you know, not how you acquired that knowledge. It actually allows us to broaden that frame or that consideration of talent. And when we do so, we actually fundamentally recognize that there are multiple pathways by which individuals acquire knowledge, skill, and ability. It's not only through educational pathways, it's through experiential learning. It's also through military service. It can be through directly related to work. It can be at boot camps. It can be in alternative credential pathways. The skills now creates a currency by which all of those different talent supply chain participants can actually communicate in the same language. I'm just curious if anyone, you know this reference, but it's kind of like the Esperanto for the talent supply chain. This notion of a universal language by which all of those participants in it can actually converse in the same dialogue. The credit recognition for skills is actually truly regardless of how it was acquired. This is one of the things that's also been unique at WGU is that we actually want to award or provide credit for all of the learning that you've acquired as you're trying to traverse in the program. We can do that as a competency-based model with an assessment-driven kind of traverse in the sense that even if you had 10 years of experience, that in a competency-based way, you can accelerate through that which you already know, it can demonstrate proficiency, and focus on those things that you need to acquire. That is what a skills-based model actually allows us to do. The other key thing that does on the other side of that talent exchange is it allows employers to actually tap into all that hidden talent. All those individuals out there, as our friends at Opportunity Work like to call them, the stars, right? Skills actually that are acquired through alternative routes. Like that's actually the key way to think about this is skills dramatically expand the way we think about how you can acquire that ability. The fourth key thing about from skills from a learning perspective, it actually allows us to surface value to the learner along their journey. We talk so much in higher education about four-year degrees. By the way, at WGU, we don't talk about four-year degrees. We talk about bachelor's degrees. On average, a student at WGU will complete their bachelor's degree in about 2.5 years. That, in fact, what you think about now is that it allows us to actually surface the value to the student as they're traversing their courses. That having completed this course, you now have these skills. And when you can actually also map those skills and those learning outcomes directly to the library of skills that are denominated in the roles that the employers are posting, you can also surface to that student to say, now that you're proficient in these skills, in the location that you are, these employers have these roles that want those skills, and here's how much they pay. That an individual who now is going through a 120 credit bachelor's degree traverse can actually see the relevancy and the value of what they're acquiring while they're in it, rather than having to wait until the end. And that can be a very long journey if you're assuming that at some point it pays off. But now skills actually, when mapped to the roles and the opportunities in the workforce, it allows us to surface values to the individuals why they traverse it. Lastly, and fundamentally, and this is actually the key thing that Michael highlighted too, is skills fundamentally increase equity and fairness in learning and work. It recognizes competency regardless of how you acquired it. It makes education and learning much more accessible. It increases the access also in pathways to opportunity. That is the kind of equity and fairness that we want to talk about. We recognize out there today of the roughly 160 million individuals in the US workforce, about 70 million of them have some post-secondary credential. 60 million of those or so will have a bachelor's degree. What about those other 90 million individuals? It's not as if they don't possess skills. They actually do. So how are employers actually better able to tap into all of that hidden talent that exists out there? You can see now, too, how having acquired those skills in different ways and different forms, we can articulate into the learning pathways as well. And so that allows us to also recognize learning and recognize skill wherever it is acquired. So those are 5 key things that I'd like to share about skills, particularly from an educational domain and background. I'll just go through them quickly. Again, first and foremost, that it is a unit of competency. It is a better measure. It actually increases the value of degrees and credentials because those degrees and credentials is a very large combination or composition of skills, but most work is not denominated that way. It's denominated down in skills. Third, it dramatically broadens the frame by which skills can be acquired. It's not only through academic learning pathways, it's through experiential learning pathways, apprenticeships, work, military, etc. And then it allows us to actually give credit for where credit is due. Third, it surfaces value to the individual along the journey rather than only at the end. And fifth, and most importantly, it dramatically increases in fairness and equity in the overall talent supply chain. Lastly, I'll just simply say that ultimately for skills to actually manifest themselves and dramatically reinvent that talent supply chain for the 21st century, it does fundamentally require innovation and change on both sides of that talent exchange. It can't be just that institutions like WGU are trying to ensure that we denominate learning outcomes and skills. It also requires hiring managers and employers to actually show that they're advancing skills-based hiring practices, meaning you have to do the hard work to articulate the skills that are needed in the jobs. You have to do the hard work to adapt and change your sourcing strategies to identify talent that has those skills. You have to adapt your interviewing models and practices to do the work that's required to have a skills-based practice of a talent supply chain. So hopefully that's useful to you and a good setup to the coming panel. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all that you're doing.